Welcome back. Well, now let's explore the achievements at COP29, focusing on climate financing strategies and the pivotal role of strategic partnerships in advancing sustainability goals, and how are the global collaborations shaping the future of environmental efforts. Well, join us for this conversation. We have Mrs. Titilayo Oshodi, Special Advisor, Climate Change and Circular Economy, Lagos State, and Dr. Adebola Odunsi, the CEO, Carbonivity, and they're both joining me right here in the studio. It's great to have you both.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I know you both were at COP, I believe. And how's the weather at COP?
Oh, it's getting chilly right now.
Okay.
I think Baku is sort of like, tending straight away from Europe, but it's right in the middle, Middle East, and it's just beginning to get nippy, but because Baku is a vast mass of land with a very small population, you get to have those winds blowing at you, and
so I guess it wasn't bad.
No, it was bearable. It was bearable.
Nice weather.
Wasn't.
All right, so I can imagine most of the deals that played out right there, and we've also had conversations that most of the developed countries are not the kind of feet dragging when it comes to investment. For vulnerable countries that did not contribute much to all the issues we have right now with carbon emissions. So talk to me, do you think Africa should change the mentality at this point and say, what, we need to finance our way out, at this point? Let me start with you.
I mean, I like the way you have positioned that question. It's time for us to start being very inclusive, being very introspective in our approach towards finance and economic empowerment. This is because we have, what it takes. We're endowed, first and foremost, with the mineral resources that are required for those alternative options that the developed countries and the global north require for them to be able to transition into a green economy. And we have numbers, where our population is enough human resource for us to be able to build capital, and develop our economic spectrum. So yes, we definitely have what it takes, and I think that's one of the things that we preach within the principles of circular economy, because it's essentially how do you start to optimize the mineral resources that we are naturally endowed with, and how can we use them to unlock opportunities for jobs and for businesses who play in that space to be able to operationalize, build, and expand their operations through scaling and diversifying. So I think that it's time. The conversations are building up. I think at the point where there was a frustrating comment, at the negotiations, it just may be that light bulb moment that we need for us to be able to say,
those negotiations seem quite heated.
It was heated, yes. Yes, it was. As it should be.
Yes, and Dr. Odunsi, definitely looking at it from carbon emissions and carbon trading, at this point. So talk to me about where we are, as Lagos State, when it comes to that.
As with everything African, we are a potential powerhouse. And I use that word potential because most times, we find ourselves contending with that word, and we need to essentially, transition into being that powerhouse as opposed to be that perceived powerhouse. So I will try to keep it as lay as possible, but Nigeria in particular is sitting on a wealth of opportunities within the carbon trading space, particularly as regards the compliance carbon markets. A lot of the efforts today are still circulating in and around the voluntary markets, which, yes, whilst there's some rewards, but we believe that the direction of application, especially for the wealth of resources that we have, when we look at just the sheer population size that Mrs. Oshodi alluded to, waste in itself is a resource. It's we like to say waste is a perception. It's only in the mindset of people. You can translate that waste into just about anything today, and realistically waste it to tuition, waste to health insurance, waste to social subsidies, and when you look at the potential, the sheer potential in the land mass and in the per capita of Nigeria, if waste is what is helping people get to work, we pay their transport bills, pay their electricity bills, you can imagine the sort of succor that it can bring, and translating into higher falutin projects and opportunities, maybe in the gas flare down space, which is where Nigeria's biggest commitments in the nationally determined contributions lie. There are a wealth of opportunities in the trading markets. Methane is a diamond in the carbon markets, for instance, and Nigeria is heavily rich in that methane. I must say that gas being approved as the transition fuel of choice for the global south, coming out of COP28, portends a very good development for the country if we can, step away from the commerce of it and also look at the carbon trading potential within it.
Right. I guess at some point we might have to change the name waste.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And call it something else.
Absolutely.
At this point. All right. So let's look at some of the outcomes from COP29. I know Lagos State did have a partnership with the EU Africa Chamber of Commerce. Tell us more about that.
So, it's very important that we lay bare right now that one of the key areas for the vision of the governor is for us to be able to position Lagos as a hub for green finance and for circular economy innovations. And that's the way that the EU Africa Chamber of Commerce have been able to plug into what we have. So what we want to do is establish technology transfer, improve the trajectory and the knowledge about climate financing, and also help our businesses to be able to build in terms of data, research, and the infrastructure that is needed for us to be able to proliferate the market from a circular economy perspective. And like I was saying earlier on, that we were very strategic about what we wanted to do about our objective when we were going to COP29, because we'd already curried and started to lobby the development sector, even our local development partners. We have financial institutions. Access Bank had bought into that vision, and they were partners that journeyed with us into COP29. And it's very, very important that they have become our partner on getting into that circularity trajectory for Lagos and by extension in Nigeria. And of course, Carbonivity, our assets carbon managers, were also on the ground when we played out all of the initiatives that we have started to pilot, so that people can begin to see firsthand the simulation of how you can begin to transform your waste in every sector: textile, plastic, used cooking oil, electronic waste, in exchange for social subsidies or for cash or for, there's so many renditions and ways that we're beginning to trade waste right now. And Carbonivity was there because we need to start to capture, there's a commerce aspect of it, but there's also the regenerative finance aspect of it, where you begin to capture data that you use as a report to play in the carbon market.
Because, talking about the circular economy at this point, I have one electronic that's giving me stress at this point. I think one of my ACs, and I want to get rid of it at some point. And I'm sure the viewers will be wondering, how do I profit from that, in the circular economy, really, in Lagos State? So
there are quite a number of programs that we have started to run, but if I needed to answer that question directly, I would say that there are recovery material enterprises that are existential within the landscape of Lagos right now. And we call them material recovery because they're just recyclers or people who collect waste and they trade them in exchange for whatever it is that you want. We have been able to bring that to bear by establishing a program called EcoCirculate, and it's essentially a waste valorization market, where you can actually bring anything that is regarded as not necessary or not required or what you have no use for. But we're bringing that in the space of eco-circulates to say that there are people who want that in exchange, and you can desire to have whatever it is. And through that ecosystem, we have had intersectoral and multisectoral interplay, partnerships. So we've partnered with the Ministry of Transport, partnered with the Ministry of Agriculture, partnered with the Ministry of Health, so that social subsidies and social amenities, can actually be accessed in exchange for that. There are also various programs that we've also started to build upon. Like, we understand what our nuance and our culture is and our tradition. That we're very, very spirit-led people. So we have begun to, build conversations with faith-based organizations so that we can use them as a channel to drive climate education, to train people, to train our young ones to be able to understand the process of circular economy and the commerce of it. And we can also begin to test businesses to connect with societies and communities, vulnerable communities that are willing to give waste, and they can have whatever it is that they want in exchange. There's one that we're particularly working on right now, and it is waste to tuition fees, waste to school to tuition fees and school uniforms, for a vulnerable community that is waterlogged, around Ajegule side.
Right.
So waste is actually becoming the if you call it the binding constraint. It's becoming the denominator, that connects with anything that you would desire. But aside from that, we're driving economic development from that, but we're also reducing, the effect of this waste on our land, on our planet, right? So we're reducing carbon emission, and that's our own way of doing that. But ultimately, there is bigger dimensions of profit, in the area of
because school fees, is not cheap right now, and I'd love to use waste to pay my children's school fees. That'll be quite incredible. Let me come to you now, Dr. Odunsi. So we have other partnerships there. This one with I think Access Bank is also part of this. So how are they complementing your work?
Fantastic, and I must commend Access Bank for the massive foresight in terms of positioning as a foremost player in the climate finance space. As project developers, or as green project developers, I think one of the biggest problems, as you alluded to earlier, is access to finance, and especially de-risking the finance that needs to come into that space. We find that we interact with a lot of nano, small, micro, medium-scale businesses who may not have the sort of cash flows and balance sheets, that can drive that massive inflow of finance. So working together with the Office of Climate Change and Circular Economy under the Economy Business Network, we are pushing together with a couple of other partners, bankability trainings, to make sure that these entities, no matter their size, they can represent themselves in that carbon market, because really and truly it's a bit different from the commercial landscape and the linear economy landscape that most people have been used to. It is truly a bottom-up dependent system, especially in the global south like Nigeria. So Access Bank has first and foremost reached down into that economic sector, not looking for the high balance sheets and all whatnot, and creating relevant instruments. So there's a green bond that sits within the bank now that we're looking to direct through structured loans towards these companies to help improve their capacity to scale. And what you find is we like to build out multiple pockets of revenue. Right now in the linear economy space, you probably get money by just trading your goods or trading your services. But within the green context, you do understand that a business being green compliant means that it is more attractive to a larger pool of funders today, under the EESG framework, which is an economic, environmental, social governance framework. Also, a lot of these funders are looking for green returns. They want to showcase that they are spending their money green, and reducing climate impact by how they spend as well. So having a structured banking partner like Access Bank taking the charge there, makes it easier for us project developers to just focus on what we're good at, develop the best possible projects, engage as many of these nano, small, medium scale businesses as possible, and create that sort of green ecosystem that really will be the lifeblood.
Right, and I want to believe other financial services companies too will also key into this for sure. But, to coast it home now, we've had COP29. Going into 2025, what are you seeing coming?
A larger level of awareness. A lot of the partners that we're talking to are very interested in driving the knowledgeability, and we believe that the bedrock of that sits within the EESG framework. Knowing that each ministry, each sector, each financial institution, each FMCG have a potential ability to benefit by effectively evaluating their performance within the structure of their economic, their environmental, their social, and their governance impact. And if they're able to deliberately and intentionally capture the data around this, then we will be better off for it in every aspect of our lives. So we've started to look at ways that we're going to drive the knowledge, the education of it. We're going to be leveraging technology in a lot of ways. We're going to be developing a campaign plan, both inwardly and outwardly. The EBN network is a platform where we're going to be providing thought leadership in those areas so that all of our organizations, all of our private sectors begin to walk in the light of the EESG. With the public sector, we're beginning to look into the various sectors, the various ministries. It's very strategic that the Office of Climate Change and Circular Economy is seated within the Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget. So we can begin to look at cost functions, from the angle of EESG, and that can also contain the deliverables, the expenditure, the budgetary allocations, within all of these ministries, and they can begin to see how they can touch on the sustainability nodes in their expenditure, and they can be more deliberate about it.
Right. I guess so much to look out for there, but it was great having you both, and I guess we're looking forward to COP30.
Oh yes,
at some
it's
point.
In Brazil.
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Titulayo Osho, the Special Advisor, Climate Change and Circular Economy for Lagos State, and Dr. Adebola Odunsi, CEO, Carbonivity. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you for having
us.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we head straight to the markets. How's the Thanksgiving trade going for most markets that are open right now, the local bourse? That's in a moment. Just stay with us.